All right, we are back after some technical issues, as per always with the podcast. So I hope everyone has had a break, had some snackages, and had a visit to the bathroom. As is always the case with the podcast, we will be obviously focusing on what we're talking about, and well, I haven't actually silenced the alerts because I'm having one of those days. The alerts will be off momentarily, but I will allow my co-host to distract you all with introducing the podcast while I do some technical stuff.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Through Our Eyes podcast. We are on episode nobody knows anymore because there's been far too many.
26.
And 26, that is actually countable, but you know, it's much more interesting if we say millions, a million episodes. But yes, welcome in. Yes, today we're recording the 26th episode, which is a little different from our usual episodes because today is going to be an update. But yes, this is the podcast where we get together and we talk with marginalised creators about their lives and their experiences and everything that makes up them and what they have been through, and answering some of those awkward questions that you want to know the answers to, but you don't particularly want to ask. I've had some changes. I'm not Arthremis anymore. Hello, I'm Pandemonium. Welcome in. I've been going by the nickname Pam for a while, since I started figuring out my identity as demi-femme and not quite woman, which essentially means I'm a woman, you'll perceive me that way, but I don't really give a fuck. So that's kind of where I'm at. So you're welcome to call me Pan or Pandemonium or whichever you prefer. But that's just me. Drac has currently headbutted a table, so I don't know if we're gonna get an an introduction from them anytime soon. So that's fine.
I'm closing the curtain because my cat decided that was the time to go through the curtain.
Perfection, absolute perfection.
It's one of those episodes. Hi, yes, I'm Drac. I am the co-host of the Through Our Eyes podcast. This has been like our joint pet project since the first Through Our Eyes big stream, where we highlighted everyone in a group setting on Pan's page to have bigger discussions, and realized that actually it's quite difficult to get into the nitty-gritty of individual stories. So that's where this came about, so that we could highlight people on a more one-to-one basis. I can't remember where I was going with that, but today we do have a return interviewee, which is new and unusual and completely and utterly unstructured and terrifying. Would you like to introduce yourself, your pronouns, your handles, and what you're here to talk to us about today?
Yeah, all right. I am Commander Plater, or Joe, depending on where you know me from. Pronouns are he, him. And I can be found on the interwebs in various different places. YouTube, Twitch. Typically, if you just search Plater on either YouTube or Twitch, you will find me. And pretty much the same over on Twitter as well. That's at Ask Sensei Plater. A little bit different from the Commander stuff everywhere else. But yeah, what else was I supposed to say? What else am I supposed to do in this bit? Explain why I'm back?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like number 4 that I've been in for, like, because we've had the ensembles, I've had an individual, and now I'm back. But yeah, I'm here because I have a rare type of incurable cancer named poorly differentiated thyroid cancer, which is actually different from the last time I was on because stuff's happened. So yeah, I'm basically kind of here to talk about life with it, how it affects you from a day-to-day basis, things like how it affects eating, or going out and doing very simple things like going for a walk, or socializing, stuff like that, all the way through to the really kind of probably the more harrowing stuff, which is what people may need to check themselves for, is more the psychological stuff, stress, pressure, anxiety, lots of anxiety.
And as always with the podcast, we do have room for audience submitted questions. I do have some that have been submitted prior to it so that we could have them ready to go. But if a question comes up during the podcast, you can submit it through the Channel Point redemptions, but we will address them towards the end, as per usual with the podcast. Sorry, random sounds coming from the other room. Let's start with a little summary for those who maybe have missed the previous episodes or haven't met you before. Could you give us a little rundown as to the story before the update?
Yeah, sure. It's a saga at this point. I feel like it's been going on longer than the Jurassic Park movies. But right, so 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with follicular thyroid cancer whilst having what we thought was a polynodule goiter removed from the left side of my neck. Went in for surgery, came out of surgery, totally fine. We just went, cool, right, wicked. Straight home, recovered, 2 weeks back at work, no worries. Went in, had a meeting with a surgeon, and he was like, 80% chance you're nothing to worry about, 20% chance it could be cancer. Had me back 2 weeks later, bosh, you got cancer. Obviously at that point I'm like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to deal with this? I can't have cancer. I'm too healthy. It's your immediate thoughts is too healthy. Can't have cancer. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it turned out I had the good kind of cancer, which is a phrase that doctors use that we hate, and they are still using, where it's supposed to be super curable, super treatable, get rid of it. Have a couple of treatments over the following couple of years. It doesn't get cured. It doesn't improve. In fact, I stopped absorbing the treatment. It's this radioactive iodine stuff. You take a tablet in hospital, get it absorbed, and it shows up on a scan. If it stops being absorbed, one of two things has happened. One, you're cured. Two, you've stopped responding to it because it's mutated and it's got worse. Classic me, it was the worst side of things. And at which point I found some more stuff growing in the left side of my neck. Went in for surgery. We were now about 3 years ago. Had it removed, and I had a lot of stuff stripped out. So I had muscle, blood vessels, nerves, all stripped out of my neck, lymph nodes, all that kind of stuff removed. And I then found out a couple of weeks after that that it was something called anaplastic thyroid cancer, and I had months to live. Now, that was years ago, so something weird's happened in between. I went for chemotherapy, did 6 cycles of the worst chemotherapy they have, like the stuff where people don't finish it. They're like, actually, no one really completes 6 cycles. And I was like, well, you told me I had to, so I did it. That was my view on it. Had that done, and it kept things stable for about 8 months, which was unexpected, but it's probably not what should have happened. I then started a new treatment that was available at the time, called lenvatinib, which is called a TKI, or tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Started that. I was on that for about a year, and that kept everything pretty much stable for a year again. That came with a huge number of side effects, and I think last time we spoke, I was on that. And that was, it gives you awful, lost so much weight. We spent a lot of time running to the toilet, and I had to throw up, diarrhea, nausea, like just pain, foot pain, losing all the skin off my feet, stuff like that. And then it stopped working. So That was about this time last year. It stopped working, and I got handed over to the Royal Master and referred to them. At which point we discovered, after my samples from my surgery were re-examined, that I didn't have anaplastic thyroid cancer. I had poorly differentiated thyroid cancer, which isn't quite as bad, which is positive. The only problem is that between, well, I had some radiotherapy as well, about August last year, had that to the chest. That caused awful side effects. I couldn't breathe, basically. Coughing. And bearing in mind, we're in a COVID world at this point. So obviously worried. And I'm taking COVID tests every other week until the coughing's gone. And I definitely don't have COVID. No, it's like, we know what's causing it. Did it cause steroids? That messed me up even more. Really upset my stomach. Then I started to do treatment called cabozantinib, which is again another TKI. I've been on that for I don't know, 8 months now. I think a little bit longer than 8 months. But yeah, in October last year, started getting back pain, and that sucked. But I was like, oh well, I guess it's just back pain. I'm spend too much time sitting in a chair. I lie around all the time. I don't really move around much. It's probably what's happening. I then, in November, I get rushed to hospital with pain so bad I couldn't move in my back, like proper tensed up, crunched up. Like I'm at this. I'm like, I can't move. I can't actually move. To the point where my wife had to help me in and out of bed. And that's the first time I've not been able to do something so simple. It was just, I couldn't sit up. I couldn't push up. I couldn't push off. Have an MRI done, have a CT done, have a bone scan done, and we find out it has spread to my spine at that point in 3 different places, also spread to my pelvis. We also know it's spread to my ribs. It has also spread to my liver. Now, all of that seems to have happened in that tiny little gap where I wasn't on any treatment. And then once I started the cabozantinib, things have been reasonably stable. I still have some in my neck, which I was meant to have had surgery on a couple of weeks ago, but they cancelled it on me 2 days before. Which is, if anyone's ever had surgery, you know that it stresses you out. You gear yourself up for it. You really, really gear yourself up for it. And then they pull the carpet out from underneath you, and you're like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do now? I was going to be having treatment, which is going to improve my situation. But one of the reasons why they cancelled it is because it turns out the surgeon that did my neck dissection, where I had all the stuff removed, didn't remove something that he told everyone he did. That thing being the left laryngeal nerve, which goes to your vocal cords, so you can talk. I have spent the last couple of years thinking that my vocal cords were paralyzed 50%, and my voice was just strong because I worked on it and really practiced hard. No, it turns out it's good because it works, and they hadn't removed what I thought they'd removed, leading me to this situation where they cancelled the surgery because of thinking it would be too much of a risk to me. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are. I'm still battling to speak to the surgeons who made the decision and get them to explain it to me why we're waiting rather than doing it. But yeah, that's a story. That's like 6 years in a pretty small space of time.
So, I mean, obviously, this is a lot to unpack for a lot of us. I want to say that I'm surprised, but it pretty much sounds exactly like what happened with my granddad last year. So, which is extremely triggering for me. But I feel it highlights something that is quite an important topic to discuss here, is that who gets to decide what surgery and what treatment you get as an individual and how you can tackle that. Now, what has been your experience with that? I feel like that's something that we should focus in on, because that's extremely, it's something that no one really thinks of until they get to the surgery, and then suddenly it's like there's this one thing that you don't even really get a say in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because you think about your normal experience with going to a doctor. Like, you feel sick, you feel unwell, you go to a doctor, you think you need some antibiotics. So why most people go to the doctor, really, they go with a wish list or a shopping list, and the shopping list is antibiotics and something for the pain, maybe. And that's typically what it's people go and they're like, oh, I've got a cough, if this isn't going, I've got a sore throat, I'll just get some antibiotics, it'll be fine. You think you're going with a shopping list, and the doctor goes, yeah, we'll give you this one off the list. Click, here you go, and they print it out for you. Cancer treatment is very different. It's a very, very different experience. You get put out in front of you what is available, and then there's a bunch of backup stuff as well that then becomes available if the situation changes or worsens. So for me, when I was referred to the Royal Marsden, we were out of options with the Mount Vernon Hospital where I was being treated before. They were out of options. They had no drugs they could give me. They were like, we've given you everything. We don't have access to anything except for more of the chemotherapy you've already had, and you've had a maximum lifetime amount of some of that already. You can never have some of that again. It's like, cool. Right. Well then, I'll be referred. So you get referred, and they say to you, okay, well, you've had everything that we can offer normally off the shelf, so we're going to see if we can get you something special that you can't normally get. Right. Okay. There are no trials available at the moment that you qualify for. So there's nothing, no super soldier program, no become Captain America, can't do that for you, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's out. There's no special stuff. Okay. But we do have this stuff that has reassuring results from America, from a study that was just been completed. So we're going to request it. It isn't normally used for this type of cancer, but we'll request it. And then you wait a month and a bit for funding to come through, because the NHS funds it, and they buy it directly from the pharmaceutical company at cost price, which in my case, the drug that I'm on is for 3 months worth, you're looking at, I think, around about £18,000. Like, if you were to buy it privately, that's how much it would cost, which is obscene. And then the other thing is they go, oh, in the meantime, we think it'd be good if you do this, and you're given advice and recommendations. So like, oh, we think about maybe doing this radiotherapy. And at the time, I didn't have any symptoms or side effects, but I did have had a mass growing in my right lung that was kind of ready to essentially where your trachea comes down and splits off. It was wrapped around one of them, so it was in a position where it just squeeze and cut off a lung essentially if left. So I was like, well, sounds like I should have that. And they're like, okay, cool. And I was in the week after, like, just absolutely shocked. I was in the week after. I've got a little tattoo in the center of my chest from where they did marking. It's unfortunately not very interesting. It's just a dot. It just looks like a blackhead that I haven't got rid of. It's like, oh no, it's really, can't get rid of it. It's just there.
I'm not going to turn it into a dragon or anything.
It would be a bit extreme, wouldn't it?
You sure you didn't want to just put like an arrow towards it? Like, just...
The thing is, that's not even the place they zap as well. They use it for they use it for triangulation. So they literally look at you, lie you down, and go, well, your nipples are there. We'll put a dot here, and then we know it's this far from this nipple and this far from this, and from the dot, and then they zap you, and that's how that works. But yeah, you get offered advice almost, and you typically go, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And when I got a call initially about like the surgery saying, oh, you've got something rapidly growing in your neck, we want to do surgery, I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. And they're like, we want to be aggressive with this, we're going to be aggressive. And I'm like, cool, I like aggression. Aggression is fighting, and You've got to fight, and it's a chance to take a chunk away and recover from that. To me, surgery recovery is a very simple process. It's you lie around for a bit and it's over. And you're good to go. And I was looking forward to that. And when they kind of went, "Oh, we're not doing that. We've decided against it," they just cancelled it. They called me up 2 days before, cancelled it. And it didn't get communicated very well, and that's one of the issues that you can sometimes have in healthcare is communication. I have plenty of examples of that where communication hasn't been particularly good. So it's but yeah, that's how it works. They give you options, you pick stuff. The longer the list, the less sick you are typically. Shorter the list, the sicker you are. And my list is pretty short at the moment on what I'm able to get.
I feel like also the system could use some clarity on at which point someone gets to decide that it wouldn't be beneficial for you to go through that, or that it would be too much of a risk, especially when it comes to things like terminal illness. It's like, well, your version of, putting someone at risk going through a surgery is different from me living with something that is going to increasingly affect my ability to function day to day.
Yeah.
So that must be quite something to have to deal with, like being. How do you cope with the idea of someone telling you that you don't qualify for that particular surgery just based on their interpretation?
You don't take it well. That's the answer. It's I'm gonna use a wonderful metaphor. It literally is this type of cancer. It literally is the noose around my neck. And because I've got it's about it's in the thyroid bed, so it's like just above the collarbone, slightly off to the left hand side. I have got something in there that's 2.4 centimeters across in its widest margin, and it is now touching my esophagus. So it's beginning to invade another structure. And when cancer does that, it's sticky, it latches on, it pushes other cells out the way, it wraps up, it tightens, it will eventually get to the point where eating will become a struggle if it's left unchecked. So it's very difficult for me to reconcile the logic behind, well, get out now then. It's only become more difficult, to someone saying, but you could lose your voice. I was like, okay, but then if it gets worse, and then we later on decide to do the surgery, have I still not got that risk? But I'm at greater risk because there's even more. You get this. Why are we not doing something about it, or why didn't we do something about it earlier? Like, we knew it was there earlier, and it was too small to extract, because you have this sweet spot with cancer where it gets to a size where you can go in, you open someone up and it's there, and you go, cool, great, you put it out, poof, done. Or it's too small, or it's too big. And if it's too big, it's wrapped around too much important stuff, which is kind of where I was 3 years ago. They didn't know it was going to be as big. I was in for 8 hours, in surgery for 8 hours, and they removed so much stuff. Like, they thought they had removed this vocal cord nerve, because the doctor just said, I saw it and went, it's got to come out. So I removed it. So either I've got a spare one, which is exceptionally rare, which is highly unlikely, or it wasn't where they thought it was going to be, which is probably more like it. And they thought they'd removed it. So it's very weird when you've got this. You're being told one thing by an expert, but it goes against common sense.
Yes, unfortunately, that doesn't sound particularly surprising for some of the other conversations that I guess Drac and I have had with our own healthcare professionals and with other people we've spoken to. But unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, but not to your degree, which is, if I may say, an absolute monumental fuck up. And I'm so sorry, mate. And I wish there was anything we could do, but we know there ain't. So the best we can do is say, fucking get on with it, doctors. Sort
If
him
only.
out.
Well, I mean,
Sort him out.
I've had some more. I mean, the NHS is brilliant, and this is you know whenever someone starts a sentence with that, they're about to dump all over it. So the
Yeah.
NHS is great. It's a fantastic service. Without it, I'd be dead. Simple as that. I'd be
Just because something is good as a principle or an idea does not mean that it is being operated in a way that is as effective as it should be for what the aim of the entire point of it was.
Yeah. Communication has been bloody awful, and I mean bad, like really, really bad. Like promising phone calls, not getting them. Promising phone calls either way, and then not getting the phone call either way. Like, we'll call you up once we've got the results, and if we don't have them by this time, we'll call you and let you know we don't have them, and then you don't get either calls on either day, and then you call up and you're like, I didn't get a call. And you speak to one person, and they're like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't seem right. Oh, well, you weren't on the list to call, but why not? That means someone else hasn't done their job, and then you eventually speak to the doctor, and the doctor's just embarrassed. I think at this point, my consultant is simply embarrassed when she speaks to me. It's probably getting pretty sick of me, actually, because I ask all the awkward questions. I push. I've researched stuff. And I don't mean like the do your own research. I found this video on YouTube that tells you how to cure cancer by stuffing apricot seeds up your butt. No, I mean like I have gone and looked at what treatments are normally available, what other countries offer, what other types of cancer treatments other cancers have, and whether they're applicable. So I come back and I ask, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? Why can't we do this? And the answer is always it's too damaging for someone who can't be cured, because I've got innumerable tumors in my lungs. You can't do all of it. You can't get all of it. So it's I'm on the scrap pile then. You know, it's just because you can't do the stuff in my lungs, you can ignore the stuff in my neck. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, not super. In general, not super.
No, from my own, and again, I don't mean to compare my experience to yours, but it's just how I'm trying to think about the communications. It's been very much all or nothing, where I've had doctors say I can give you treatment, but I can't tell you the cause because there could be too many causes, and you'd have to go through things to find it out. And it's like, but I want to do the things, like it will increase my quality of life. Quality is important.
I think that's one of the things that I find the most infuriating, is the idea that quite often treatments aren't weighed up against the quality that it could restore to someone's life, whether that be a type of surgery, whether that be a treatment, whether or not that be trying something different and actually taking the time to sit down and consider those options. Often it's a case of, is it a risk?
Yeah, and they very much made the decision for me. Like it's too risky. It's not growing fast enough. Like we're at this point where there's this thing in my neck in particular. This is like a very recent thing. Like last couple of weeks I'm dealing with. We did a scan and it looked like it grew 1 centimeter in a couple of months. That's pretty fast. Like that's fast. Like your nails don't grow that quick. It's that thing to remember is that your hair doesn't grow that quick. So when you've got something growing that much in a space that it shouldn't be, and they know what it is, it's a concern. And they were like, right, it's grown super fast. Let's go in there. Let's cut it out. Then they went, oh no, your vocal cords work. now it's too risky. And it's because they thought that they'd be going in to kind of like an active war zone, but everything's already dead, so you're fine. You can go in and sort it out. But it's not. There's stuff in there that you want to protect still, and they've decided that that is more important because it can. Because you've got to think about with your vocal cords, they work as like almost like a fan, where they come across and they meet each other in the middle. The concern is that one won't then come all the way over. It'll be stuck in the middle, which would then half my airway. So it'd be like breathing through one nostril, essentially, even through the mouth. Or it would be way over and I wouldn't be able to talk and I just have this raspy voice. But the thing is that as far as I'm concerned, I've already been there. I've already been through that. 3 years ago, I woke up from surgery and couldn't talk. I couldn't swallow. I had to be fed by tube. I was all of these things. And then I'm back here again being warned about them. And I'm like, yeah, but done it, bro.
Been there, done that.
Like, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I've done it. But no, I haven't. So.
And if it's your choice to do what you want with your body, and bodily autonomy is so important no matter who you are. I know it sounds like we're preaching to the choir here because we can't exactly tell you, and you know what you're talking about here, but yeah. I don't. Bodily autonomy is so important. If you are deciding that that's a risk you're willing to take, it should be your choice.
Yeah,
I'm sorry it isn't. I'm sorry it isn't.
It should be to a certain extent, but there's also the fact that I don't actually know best. Like I don't know what surgical techniques there are. I don't know how difficult it is to carry out surgery on a person. That makes it sound like I've carried out surgery on other things. No, I don't know what it's like to carry out surgery. I don't know. I assume it's very difficult. I've got to assume it's difficult because people go to school for a long time for it and they train for a long time for it. So I would assume they do know best. I have to work on that assumption, but I need to really understand why. I have to understand why that's the case. And no one's been able to explain to me yet why there's this difference in risk between now and later. And I would very much assume that later is the case of, well, now it's too late.
Yeah.
And now things are definitely going to be complicated. So, I need that explained to me. So I can't balance those two things. And that's very much mentally where I am. And this tiny little 2.5 centimeter thing in my neck is causing this huge mental pressure. Where it's just there and I can think about it all the time. It's like you swallow and you're like, oh, can I feel that? Can I feel that? Probably can't. Probably can't. But I think I can.
It can get very psychosomatic, I think, when you start to worry about it more and then it feels real, but it might not be. But you've made a really good point there. I've been doing a lot of mental health training recently to try and learn more about all different kinds of things to do with mental health and helping somebody. Obviously, you've said that this is causing a hell of a lot of anxiety, which, I mean, yeah, I can imagine, and that's incredibly valid. Is there anything that you've been finding that's been helping you to sort of manage it, or well, I know it sounds silly, but techniques, or has it just been that getting into something that you love has been helping, or how have you been managing?
I like to overutilize. So what I do is if I'm stressed about something, I know that it will tick over in the background. If I'm not handling it consciously, I will stop trying to, and I will move away from it, and I'll do something else. That typically manifests itself as playing a game, watching a movie at the same time, and then probably scrolling on TikTok also at the same time. Where I've replayed Cyberpunk recently, and maybe it's a bad thing to be replaying them because it's all about body modification and and the main character is terminally ill. So it's just like, wow, what a choice of game. But anyway, enjoying the game. So I'm playing this game, watching a movie at the same time, phone in hand. I'm like, but that just totally locked in, and that'll relax me. and then I'm a lot more chilled out after. And often I'll be like, actually, no, you know what? I'm okay. I just need to wait for the next thing. It'll be fine. You know, I've got that. I work my way through that little bit of anxiety, that stress ball, kind of dodge it for a minute, and then be like, okay, cool, we can keep moving forward.
So, in terms of how this new development and this new diagnosis has been affecting you, like how has that been? Like, how have things been impacting your day-to-day life, aside from the mental health?
So obviously the misdiagnosis thing was quite a shock, because, you know, someone tells you got months to live, and it's like, whoa, shit, what do you do? You head down, swing for the fences. You know, you keep going, and then you live for years, and then someone turns around and says, "Well, actually, you never really had the threat of months," and you're just so confused by that. I should be happy. I should be really chuffed that, you know, the type of cancer that I've got isn't as bad as it was, but you're still pretty bothered by it. Like, you're still then suddenly you think, well, what the hell was amateur hour when they looked at my sample? You know, like what these things aren't similar or as similar under a microscope as you might think. You know, that you googled lots of images when I found out, to be like, could I spot the difference? Answer is no, I'm not qualified enough, but I can see they're different. You know, I can see. And
I mean, I could answer that one for you.
That's true, yeah.
Those images that you tend to find online will be a perfect scenario. So you get like, having worked in a lab with cancer diagnoses and such forth, and actually doing the slides that are used to figure out what types they are, is it's really not as clear cut as you would hope. Because the thing is that, yeah, okay, you've got a sample, right? They then have to cut that sample into very minute sections, and then they need to make sure that they preserve enough of that, but the right stuff. But if they don't preserve it in the right way, or some chemical is off, or something is not quite right that day, or the machine wasn't right that day, there are so many factors that the point where you get to actually looking at the slide, it's a fucking miracle there's anything left at that point. And then quite often, especially when it comes to cancer, those cells look fucked. Like, those cells look fucked. So really trying to figure out, is it this type or is it that type, or is it, which one does it most represent? And it's not as clear cut as it could be, and often it's dealt in percentages rather than like yes or no. While this is not an excuse for misdiagnosis, this might help explain how it isn't as, when we send things for testing, we expect it to be a case of a tick box of, yes, they have this disease, yes, they have that disease, and it really isn't. It's not exact. And quite often a lot of cancer testing is also based on like, do we see an opinion that it's this cancer, and then it's run past several people, and it's really very honestly on the being the patient side, it sucks. To be fair, being on the testing side, it also sucks. But they are trying their best to get you the most accurate thing that they can. but yeah, it's everyone
It's
hopes for the perfect samples.
yeah, I imagine. All I know is that I've also found out that my tissue sample has been withdrawn from the tissue bank and has been used for teaching and has been to a couple of universities, which is good. Like, I'm glad that that's happened. That's something that I found out throughout this, which I thought was quite cool, is that it has been to a couple of universities. It's been round. People have looked at it. People have been at given examples of this is what this looks like. This is really confusing. What do you think this is? And all that kind of stuff. And then it's been checked back in again. It's like, oh, it's pretty interesting. And then it's been sent off back to the lab. And I'm actually currently waiting on genetic testing to be done to see if I have any targetable mutations. Unfortunately, I found out that immunotherapy I'm not suitable for. It's like literally a single protein on the cell membrane that they look for, but don't have it. They're like, yeah, your score is less than 0.5, which is really bad for that. I was like, okay, makes sense. But yeah, very very odd experience, I'd say it's been. But yeah, just dealing with it from a day-to-day basis is tough.
So you spoke a lot earlier about like the physical impacts that you've been experiencing and how you've gone from feeling fine with terminal cancer to then going through surgery and having to come back from that. And how are you at this point with the fact that it's now affecting multiple areas?
There's a very, I'd probably say end of last year was when I felt like I had cancer for the first time, or I knew something was physically wrong. So rather than just being a bit tired, which previously I had been, just a bit tired, stomach had been upset by the medication I was on, which was to be expected. Means it's being absorbed. That's the only positive, is that you're getting the side effects is being absorbed. The pain that hit and how fast it hit was a real shock, like a huge shock. And now having to be on morphine every day in order to not be in pain, and especially your dosage isn't always right for you, what you're given out of the hospital. So they give you a bag and they go, take this much twice a day. And you're like, okay. And you take that much twice a day and you're asleep most of the day, all night. You're like, cool, I'm getting loads of sleep, but that's not living. So you then have to learn to balance it out for yourself. I had a freak out moment and I went cold turkey for a bit on morphine. And I am going to give a genuine piece of advice. Don't do that, anybody. Don't go cold turkey on your morphine.
I think that could be held for quite a few medications, especially in current company. Don't go cold turkey on your medications. It's not gonna affect you well.
No, it's there's a reason why they don't call it immediately come off of it safely. It's because that's another thing. It's like they cold turkey doesn't sound like a great thing. But yeah, I did that. I had a freak out, and then I went back onto it, but at a lower dose to see if I could handle it on a lower dose and handle the pain. And yeah, there was still no pain. So I halved the dose of morphine that I was on, and that helped a lot.
So is morphine the only thing that you've been put on, or is it that case of like, have they got you to the point where they're putting you on multiple medications to deal with various side effects?
I'm dealing with side effects of the treatment more than anything. So the morphine is just for the bone pain. That's the only reason I'm on that. But then on top of that, where I take this cabozantinib stuff, it gives me diarrhea like you would not believe. Like awful. Like have something to eat and 10 minutes later I've got to go to the toilet when it's bad. So I'm now taking Imodium 3 times a day, every day, as like a I need to have that as a preventative, which normally you wouldn't want to do. You'd be backed up for days if you did that normally. I'm lucky if it touches it. So I have to have that. I also take clonazepam, which is kind of like it's from the same drug group as diazepam, so it's for anxiety and for stress, and that's just so I can sleep. Because if I close my eyes at night without it, it is like it's like the world's worst disco, where the only things that were invited was anxiety and stress. And yeah,
that's a good way of describing it. Yeah,
and that's all you can hear is anxiety and stress with a disco beat to it, and it's like no one's enjoying that. So yeah, it's that's pretty rough. That's as one to not have to be like, it's great when you take it and I sit around for half an hour and I'm like, time to go to sleep, and then I'm out cold, and it's fantastic. But it does only last 8 hours, and I wake up 8 hours later and I'm like, I'm sure I can hear a beat in the distance. Yeah, and that's how it begins. It's
the drum.
Yeah. I'm also on I'm also on blood thinner as well. I used to have to do injections every day, which sucked, but now I've got tablets, which is great. I got tablets for it, so that has improved my mood immensely.
Oh, I can imagine.
Nice.
What's easier, swallowing a tablet or stabbing yourself every day for?
Well, I lost a lot of weight, so that's something that I lost a lot of weight from starting it to where I am now. I was at about 100 kilos when I started it, and that was after chemotherapy. I started it, and then I'm now down to about 70. So you think about, you lose almost a third of your body weight when you weren't particularly overweight to start off with. It's I've lost kind of like all my muscle mass. I've got bones that stick out that I didn't realize I had, and it's kind of that's not been super, and that's because of all the weight loss and because of all the diarrhea and the nausea and all of that. So that's been pretty rough. And then the other medication I have to take is lansoprazole, which is to protect my stomach from all of the drugs that I have to take. Which, yeah, I mean that's a nothing. That's just to me, of all the things I have to take, that is really not anything to worry about.
Sorry, I'm going to be slow in trying to process my thoughts. Because going cold turkey on your drugs is a terrible idea.
Yeah, who would ever do that, Drac?
Yeah, you're not supposed to do it.
No, honestly.
So did you not hear what I just said?
Are you even listening?
Someone should have told me a week ago, God damn it. Last time that we talked, you mentioned that one of the ways that you helped keep your mental health up and your strength in general and your fitness was because you were quite focused on exercise and maintaining that. I'm assuming that now you've gone the opposite way in the fact that you can't.
Yeah, I can't. I want to. I was a keen martial artist from the age of 7. Karate, kickboxing, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, did it all. Did it professionally for a year. I was really into it. And even when I first found out I had cancer, I was going Thai boxing lessons still. Once my neck had healed, I carried on Thai boxing, and totally fine. It's kicking heads, and it was great. Really good fun. And Now I can't. I move in the wrong way, and because of where the cancer is in my spine, I have to be really careful the way I sit, just how I sit. It's if I bend too far back, then it pinches. If I bend too far forward, then it pinches, or it grinds. I'm lucky in the fact that I haven't really felt it in my neck or anything like that, because I've got it in three vertebrae, and it's my C1, T1, and L6, where so the different spots, and I can feel them on different spots, and it's like I'll get a pain, and I'm like, oh, that's this one, that's this one, that's this one. The only one that's not giving me any grief is the is C1, which is the one which is literally just below your skull. So if that starts giving me trouble, then I'm in trouble. But yeah, the fitness side of things is just gone. Still walk around the shops and stuff every day. Pop out up and down the stairs. That's fine. The having the radiotherapy to my lung really, really knocked me backwards, because I couldn't breathe. I said I'd come in a bit, and that was me trying to breathe. Or I'd have a shower, and after a shower, I'd have to sit down, cough and cough and cough and cough, and knowing that there's nothing to come out was pretty unpleasant. It's just coughing and knowing that this is supposed to be helping you is a difficult thing. But no, I'm desperate to. I'm wearing a Cobra Kai t-shirt, right? And I love Cobra Kai, the TV show, one of my favorite TV shows. And I wish I could go back and do karate. I can't be hit, because the areas where I have cancer in my bones are basically like glass. They will break if struck. It's an impossible thing for me to be able to go back and do now, which sucks.
How are you dealing with that? How are you? Because I mean, you're you always come across in every conversation that we've had on the podcast and the other streams as a very optimistic and very positive person. But that has got to hit hard. So how are you coping with it? And this isn't like how are you managing it? It's are you doing okay?
I miss it more than anything. And I have to be very, very kind of honest. Like, it was my life. At one point, I used to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, go training for 2-3 hours, have some lunch, start teaching martial arts at 5 in the evening, not finish till 10. And that was my life. And I moved away from that, and that was hard enough moving away from it. Kind of the moving away from it and doing a normal job. And that was hard enough, but I could, I still did training. As much training as I could fit in around my job is what I did. So it was always there. It was always an option, and it was always I was always unhappy with my body as a kid. Arms and legs too long, chest is a weird shape, a little bit chubby. Never ever happy. As an adult, I got to the point where I got to where I was happy, and then cancer hit me. And for a while, I was like, well, you know what? There's no reason I can't still be buff and have cancer. There's no reason for that. And now I'm like, yeah, there is a pretty good fucking reason. And the reason being is that I sweep my flat and I feel sick. I get tired when I walk around the shops and come back. Not to mention, I know that my personality has changed through it as well. I'm definitely not who I used to be, and I say that I'm not as driven, because I'm like, well, I don't have the reason to be driven, because there isn't necessarily a future. But at the same time, you don't lose hope, because if you're still breathing, you're still living. and you have to keep going, and you have to carry on, and you can't. You can, if you give up, then it's done. And so I do. I borrow the philosophies from my martial arts, and it's a fight's only over when you give up. It's if you stop fighting, then the fight's over. But as long as you put your hands up, chin down, move forward, it carries on. And for me, that's how I look at it. My fight's different now. It was with gloves in a ring. It's now every day, getting up, having breakfast, eating enough, getting enough calories in. That's for me, that's the basis of my day is, have I eaten enough? Have I put enough in? That's my real kind of focus.
So
Sorry, go on.
So I was going to say it's more living for the moment than necessarily making huge plans for the future.
Yeah, it's something I need to move away from as well. I need to move away from this doing little stints, because I used to set myself when it was you've got months to live. I set myself this, right, my birthday, right, Christmas, right, our wedding anniversary, all these different dates you'd pick. You'd be like, this is my next step, and I'll get through that. I'll drag myself through this shit time to that, the next good thing. And it was kind of like in between that, though, I've got this scan. Once we're past that scan, no worries, we're clear sailing until this next event. And unfortunately, you get to this point where the next event that's like a scan result or an appointment, they come faster and faster and in between, and you are literally just living between to get to the next one. And this is a mistake that I've made, where I've let anxiety kind of paralyze me in life by not taking a holiday when I can, or not booking something, or not seeing people when I was able to, or not having a good day and doing something with it, whether it be turning on a stream and sit there, play a game, talk to some friends. You waste those things. You kind of let them get away from you, and it's like, oh, idiot! Like, of all the things to let slip away, time is not it. So when you feel good, you've got to use the time, and that's I've realized that, and this is like a revelation over the last couple of weeks, really, because my wife and I want to go on holiday. We are desperate to go on holiday, but we were waiting for the surgery, and they cancelled it, and now it's all up in the air. And then it's do you wait for the next thing? There might not be a next thing, so I might just be waiting for nothing, and then what I do is I miss the time.
Yeah.
So it's it's complicated. There's no simple way of moving forwards when you're dealing with something like this. And everyone, and the reason why I don't particularly give advice about how to handle the situation, I may talk about how I handle it, and if people can use that or people can borrow from it, fantastic. Because only you're an expert in what you're going through.
Yeah, everyone's going to have an individual experience, especially with something as complex as cancer.
Yeah.
But I mean, if there's anything that I can say from time that we've spent having you on, is that you are very much a inspiration to everyone who gets to listen to you talk, because despite that it may be a very difficult subject and it's a very taboo subject, you speak about it in such an open and honest way, and you don't sugarcoat it, and you don't hide anything from it, and you just present it as, this is what's happening, and this is how it's happening, and this is how I am experiencing it. And I think that's amazing, honestly.
Thank you for saying that.
Like,
it's good to hear I'm doing the right thing.
I think that you are.
I sit down, I talk, and it's essentially therapy for me. So if people are benefiting from me doing something for myself, then brilliant. You know, it's I'm at this point where loads of people seem to know who I am, and I turn up in thyroid cancer groups on Facebook, and I ask questions, and they'll go, "Oh, I've seen you on YouTube." I'm like, "Shit." Okay, well, guess I'll put my head down and offer advice where I can.
But not everyone
say,
has that. Sorry, go on.
It's all right. I've known you since before you were ever diagnosed.
Actually, no, you haven't. No, because
I've known of you since before you were diagnosed. We may not have spoken at that point, but well, people forget I was about in the industry a long time before they ever heard my name. But I heard yours. I heard everyone's names in good ways. But I was just going to say, from the time that we have met and talked together, I don't think you've changed in any of the ways that matter. I think you're still kind, genuine, funny, and caring. I don't think any of that has changed. At least not from any of the times we've talked, or the way that your friends talk about you. And they're all here, so that's good.
It's like, yeah, I can see some of them in chat talking about me, and I'm like, God damn it! Stop saying nice stuff. We don't do.
Cuties have arrived.
We don't do that here.
See,
no,
that shows
toxic vibes only.
That shows exactly the impact that a person has of the people around them. Is that people will not spend their time putting in the effort to compliment you in as extensive ways if they're just trying to placate. Like, it's a, "Oh yeah, you're nice," is usually a platitude, but people speak very highly of you, and I think that in itself shows very much that what you do and what you say on shows like this and in your own space is definitely having a good impact. Right. I
have a question.
Okay.
Where are you and your missus gonna go, Joe?
That's what I was gonna
when you go on holiday, where beat you to it. Where are you going? Tell us, what are your plans?
Somewhere very sunny, somewhere very hot, somewhere where I don't have to worry about anything. Like, it's that kind of place. Like, ideally, we're talking all-inclusive tropical resort. Where you spend too much money on getting there, and then you're there, and then you don't have to put your hand in your pocket, and it's delightful. That's basically, like, I feel like I've earned it. In saying Brighton, done.
No,
just
it's the Croydon.
There wasn't the Croydon, yeah.
No one wants to go to Croydon, let's be fair.
No, even when I lived in London, I didn't want to go to Croydon.
No. You can get out of Croydon quickly and go somewhere better. Done. There you are. Then you get to have escaped from Croydon. It's an adventure.
Escape from Croydon.
We have another 15 minutes before I will tackle audience questions, but is there anything particular that you wanted to go over before I harangue you with the multitude of questions?
I'd kind of like I guess I say that I don't give advice, but I have certain things that I say and I do, and there are certain things that get me up in the morning. It's my cat. He gets me up. Alfred. He's a wonderful, sweet cat, sweet black fluffy cat. And it's very much like a life-enhancing thing of having a pet. And it's something that I would recommend if you're able to, and you're having a tough time. Get a pet. And as cat owners yourselves, well, cat staff, because we are the staff. We we know that they're lovely to have around. And I would say that that was something that really, really helped me. Is I was really, really down after I had to have my cat Clive put to sleep because of his heart condition, and devastated, destroyed. And I didn't realize how much I'd been relying on having an animal, a fluffy animal, a cute pet to get me up and get me out of bed, to feed them. And now I've got a cat who doesn't want me to feed them. They want my wife to feed them, and she does. And he just wakes me up at 9:30 every morning. Oh, and 4 o'clock in the morning, because he wants certain things. And it's actually nice to have a bit of routine that isn't around cancer. So that's been really, really nice. Because I like my routine. Um, I like knowing what happens next and what's going on, and knowing that your cat's going to wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning when you check the time and it's 2:30. That's sometimes enough of a bit of a routine for you to be like, okay, cool. Well, we know that'll happen, which is a weird thing to say. But yeah, pets are good. Everyone should have a pet.
I concur very much so. I think the one thing that helped me get out of my major depressive point was finally getting a cat and realizing that even if it is a bad day, you can guarantee those cute little bastards are going to make it better.
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty bad day yesterday. I don't know what triggered it. Like, the morning was fine, the day was fine. Then as I was getting to the end of the work day, it was just like my mood just went pew and hit the ground, and then nothing was going on in my brain. I was just sad. So I went and sat downstairs, and I just sort of chilled for a bit and just sort of disassociated for a while, and just. Then I looked over at the spare sofa we've got, the two-seater, and my cat was just on it, like, completely upside down, her chin pointed up and her arms, like, at skewed angles, and I just burst out laughing, and I had no idea why. But it was like, oh, that's good. I needed that. That's just a tiny moment of, all right, get up, you sad bitch. You can do something. Come on. Like, this cat is being hilarious. You can get off the sofa. Come on. So, cats are good. Pets are good.
Yeah, animals are therapy.
Very much.
I think that very much is the case of for anyone, is no matter the situation, no matter the illness, the point in your life that is getting you down, try to introduce something that depends on you, that's living, whether that be a pet or a plant, or my current one is a vegetable garden. These things give you the routine, but also give you a motivation to show something coming of your actions. It gives you a purpose that actually shows some kind of end result, and I think that can help in any situation, especially when it comes to mental health. Right, I've got a heck ton of questions, both submitted to the form and currently in the channel points, so we should probably get started with them, otherwise we're going to run out of time. So, first question, has chemotherapy had any side effects other than the nausea and epididymis? I can't say that word. Infection. Oh, is that supposed to be epidermis?
Skin infection, I'm guessing.
Yes,
Right.
Okay. It's not spelt as epidermis, but infection you already mentioned.
If it's epididymis, that's somewhere, it's a very different part of the body. But no, and I certainly don't have an infection there. No, so the chemotherapy, when I went through chemo, I mean that was like 3 years ago. It has left me with a couple of things, where I have tinnitus now. I didn't beforehand, and I did after. And there's actually a theory behind what causes it, because chemotherapy is, as a treatment, it being fully systemic, it hits everything. It's burning the garden to get the weeds. It's you go in, set fire to everything, and hope the weeds don't grow back. That's chemotherapy. Where you lose all your hair, it was you've got hair inside your ears that obviously affect your balance and your hearing, and that's the suspicion, is that you have lost, those hairs fall out and cause you problems, and that's what causes the your issues with tinnitus. So there's that. So I've got tinnitus that's lasting, and you might notice I have a white beard and my hair is a bit two-tone. For those that can see, obviously, if you're not got the video on, you won't know. But my hair has been turned white by my current treatment, the cabozantinib. One of the side effects is that it can thin hair or turn your hair white. And after 2 months of being on it, I shaved my beard, and then it just grew back white. And I had this previously, before, this wonderful thick ginger beard, a little flecks of grey, because I'm no spring chicken, and now it's white. And my head hair is all growing through white, and my eyelashes grew through white for a while, but now, which is really weird, is that it started to grow back normally in places. So my eyelashes have started to grow back at a more normal colour, and my beard, particularly around under my chin, has started to grow back darker, which is a surprise. No one expects that. It's like that's an interesting thing. But yeah, that's been the strangest thing. But the skin stuff, like, it's losing sheets of skin off the bottom of your feet. It's like having a huge blister. Your feet get really sore, like you've walked 1,000 miles, and then you have a shower, and then you look at your foot, and it's like, and you can see it all bubble off, basically. You're like, here we go, and then you remove it, and then it's sore for a couple of days, and then it immediately hardens up, and then you wait 4 weeks, and it happens again. It's just the way it is. It's, for an everyday treatment, it's strange that it goes in cycles.
Okay, next question. Please expand on the financial and unemployment struggles that prevent you uploading cancer videos more often.
That's a weird question, because I'd probably say that money doesn't affect me uploading more often. Because it doesn't. I'm lucky enough to have, when I took out my mortgage, I took out critical illness insurance. So I don't have to worry about paying my mortgage. It's all paid off and stuff. And I survive on the personal independent payment that comes in from the government, because someone who is terminally ill, it's a benefit you're entitled to. And that really helps me get to, like, hospital appointments and stuff, because I have to go to London every couple of weeks, and it's £30 on the train. And when I had radiotherapy, I was there 5 days in a row, back and forth. And it's 150 quid gone, and you're like, that could be dinners. Yeah. So, but one of the real reason why I don't upload my vlogs very often is because of the mental side of it. It's nothing to do with the socioeconomic climate. It is down to how I feel, whether or not I want to turn myself inside out, pour my feelings out on the internet, because sometimes you don't want to. Like, for example, today is obviously a good day, and I'm fine doing it because I'm giving some really good in-depth answers. But me on a bad day would be very different. So it's very much that, like, you've got to have your energy line up with your drive, and you can be as driven as you wanted to, but if you've got no energy, you ain't doing it. And if you have as much energy as you want, but if you don't want to do it, you're not going to.
Yep. That pretty much, I think that's even without an illness, like, that should be the thought process of most content creators, is sometimes you don't need to pour yourself out for content. Like, it is not a requirement to be constantly putting that out there. Okay. If we all had a floating sign above our heads for everyone to see, what would yours say on it?
Wow.
On Sims, we've gone full Sims.
Yeah. But no, the toilet symbol. That's it. It'd be that. It'd have to be that, wouldn't it? It's with the way I've spent far too much time in my bathroom over the last few months. But yeah, it would probably be the toilet symbol.
Sorted, done.
Yeah, cool. The poop emoji. Okay. Upon learning you were terminally ill, did it bother you that medical professionals were using the vague word incurable to make you feel better instead of using a clear word like terminal? Did this give you unrealistic hope and add to a sense of denial?
No, I've definitely not been in denial of my situation. I understand it too well to be able to deny it. And they do use the word incurable. And the reason why they're using the word incurable is because it might not be the thing that kills you. Like it's not a definite. It's not like when you go in the office and they sit down and be like, okay, you're dying. And you're like, oh God, how long have I got? And they go 5. And you go like, 5 what? You go 4, 3. They don't do that. So I get hit by a bus, in which case my cancer wasn't terminal, but it definitely wasn't cured. So I think this is it's a very funny, I think they use it as a softer word, but it is very important that you understand that it could mean that your cancer isn't necessarily that aggressive, but it can be managed as a long-term chronic condition. And typically with thyroid cancer, that is the case. Even if it's spread, there's a lot of people who only have to that they take the drugs that I take and it just works and it holds it stable permanently, and they're old and then they grow and brilliant, and that's how it works. But then you usually get others who it does carry on and keep going and gradually gets worse. But yeah, I'm okay with the term incurable. Terminal seems a bit like you say it and people then start asking you how long have you got. And the answer is I don't know. No one knows. I have defied the odds already, so I don't know. They don't know. Doctors don't know, and it's not a statistical trend that you can measure for how long people have. It really doesn't work that way, especially with medicine advancing as quickly as it does and has and is that, for example, anaplastic thyroid cancer used to have a life expectancy of months. They have now come up with ways to actually completely get rid of it from people, as long as they have the correct genetic markers. So they can actually just cure it. And that was incurable. That was terminal only a couple of years ago. So it's a big difference. So I think using the incurable word is fine. I understand its implications. And I think as long as you can get your head around those implications, then it's all right. But using the word terminal is a big, scary word. And, we've still got doctors saying that thyroid cancer is the good kind, despite the fact that it can be incurable.
It's also the same response that they give towards prostate cancer. It's prostate cancer is the one that you won't die of it, you'll die with it, because it won't be the cancer that kills you, in theory. It'll be the something else along the line, because you can live with it for so long that likelihood is something else will beat it to the punch. You've said previously that one good thing about having cancer is nobody gets angry at you when you're unreasonably irritable. Do you think cancer has made you more prone to nitpicking and losing your temper over little things?
Oh, I feel like this is some really specific questioning where people have picked up on. Is this? Do we know if it's one person who's asked these questions?
Each of these was submitted individually.
Okay, it's weird. Wow, maybe I do nitpick. Um, I am quite nitpicky anyway. Like that's fair. I do. I try really hard not to be. My wife would probably say that I am quite nitpicky and I like things just so. But I've definitely not said that. That's a misquote there because you can you can be an asshole and you can have cancer. The things aren't related, so you can be a mean, horrible asshole and then be like, "Oi, you shouldn't be doing that. You're being an asshole." It's like, yeah, and that's fair. Um, but um, I wouldn't say I've used it as an excuse, and I would expect people to get annoyed with me if I was being an asshole. So
Yeah. It's definitely a weird question. I mean, when you're in pain or you're sick, however like sick you are, you probably will get tired and become grumpy or angry at some points, and that's completely valid. But yeah, I don't think anyone who's sick would want that to be used as an excuse for them getting away with being a dick. Like, you don't want to jail free card for being nasty to somebody because you're sick. That's
no,
not for
I know there are certain things that on my vlog, there are certain comments that I respond to with fervor. Let's use that as a word rather than aggression or anger. And I'm a passionate anti-theist. Right? I'm totally like a I. It drives me insane where people say, "Oh, you need to find Jesus or you need to find God," um, and I'm just like, no, stop it. Like, yeah, I feel like you're trying to convert me. You're forcing something upon me that I don't want, and that's any time that I'd probably say I get a bit dirty with people because it really is. I just find the idea that um that people might not think you're strong enough to get through something on your own. I find that offensive. It's the if I need any if I need any help, I'll go to my friends and my family. Um, and I've learned you've got a hell of a lot in the basement. Sometimes you can keep digging, and there's multiple basements apparently that you need strength. You can find it in. So yeah, but I didn't think I was often that shitty. Hmm.
I mean, I find it hard to believe, but also, even if you do get like that, yeah, everyone does at some point. In like,
human.
How many times have any of you woken up and felt like you just haven't had enough sleep, and you've told the cat to shove off, or you've I don't know, someone cut you up in queuing for the bus, and yeah, of course, you're human. You're going to get pissy
And
now and again. It's normal.
Sometimes you can just be in a bad mood, and it's got nothing to do with cancer.
Right.
Or sometimes you're in a bad mood and it is because of cancer. And you go, actually, you know what? I'm having a really rough time because of this. And I'm pretty open and honest. And what I normally do is if I am having a rough time, is I lock myself away. So I don't say things I shouldn't say or do things I shouldn't do. Because it's really easy for you to lose your temper. And if I don't know, you're holding onto a bowl, you're cooking your dinner, you burn yourself, get really mad, get really annoyed. But am I going to throw my food across the room? No, because then you're still hungry and there's a mess to clear up and it didn't change a thing. So stop, walk away.
I mean, it's all about how you deal with your anger and frustrations rather than what causes them, or if you're owed some kind of come up, like get out of jail free card for it. It's just, you're human. it's a reaction. It's normal.
Yeah.
How you choose to respond is sometimes you're going to make mistakes, and sometimes you're going to realize that you're being a douchebag because you're in a bad mood because you only slept 2 hours last night. It's fine.
I do wonder if this kind of question comes from, and we see this a lot with different kinds of marginalizations, where people are often infantilized, or like almost somebody who's sick can often be treated as though they're holier thou, or like other people will expect them to act holier thou because they're sick and they must be so weak and thankful for all the things. It's like, no, they're still a person, and like that person hasn't changed. But I don't know, so maybe just by you still being the person you are, they're like, well, you're sick, you should be just crying on the floor and saying platitudes and like begging for help, and maybe they just don't know what to do with somebody who is refusing to.
I mean,
just
I on my
follow it.
vlog, I have been accused of being arrogant. I've got to make it really, really, really super clear. That is not a unique thing post-cancer. Pre-cancer, it was worse. Like much, much worse. I was awful. I was definitely a lot worse before I had cancer. I look at myself and I was like, I was awful. I did very well in a job when I was in my early 20s, and I got promoted into my first management position before I was psychologically ready. Done all the training, all of the processes. Problem was that I had no people management skills, and because of that, I looked to the person that I had learned all of my management skills from, who was the Hitler type manager, which was storm in, do this, do that, get it done now, bam, and you move on, and you didn't care about what people are going through or why they've done. There was no question of why. It was always about the what. And I've definitely changed and matured over the years, which you bloody hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like I say, me being called arrogant is, I don't reject that as an initial analysis, but a lot of people, they will judge vlogs, they'll judge your entire life or personality based on a 10-minute video that you put out once a month, which is it's a weird thing to do. Yeah.
Some people will see confidence and call it arrogance, or
Yeah.
being self-assured, especially when it doesn't concern them, because from the blogs of yours that I've seen, it's self-reflective and explanatory, less than trying to offer out advice, or say that you're the king of the world. Like that's not what goes on in your vlogs. So I wonder if it's a them problem, not a you problem.
See, I think that would be arrogant if I were to assume it's their problem.
Perhaps.
How about it's in
But-
everyone's problem? There we go.
Yeah.
It's being everyone's problem, Plater.
Yeah, it's probably, I'm secretly a little bit of everyone's problem. Whether you've met me or not, I'm probably a little bit of your problem.
The most chaotic man.
Right.
Maybe
Anyway.
she's your cat writing those comments.
Okay. Do you have a motto or mantra that you live by?
Do what must be done. That has been my phrase that I have used over and over again when it comes to cancer and treatment, surgery. Do what must be done. Because if it must be done, do it. And if it mustn't, don't. It really is as simple as that. If you want a result, then you have to do a certain thing, then do it, and it must be done. And that's my 100% my motto.
I'm sharing my complete lack of knowledge with karate here, but I ask that you bear with me. Could you take your knowledge of karate and use it for some form of tai chi?
Yes, from a coordination point of view and from the limited number of movements there exists from the human form, but no, because what I really miss is hitting people. Like I say, I used to I I used to compete internationally in kickboxing. I used to absolutely have it. You know, my nose is crooked because I've had it broken 3 times. I like a good, I like a good scrap when it's controlled and in a sporting environment.
Mm.
I don't fight on the streets and never have, because that's a stupid thing to do. But it's karate is, and the way I used to train in karate was very much with contact, and Tai Chi is either taught as old people in the park, slowly stepping and pushing, which is one thing, or it is taught as a form of combat, which again I wouldn't be able to do. So I don't have any interest in the stuff, um, the pushing things in the park. You know, it's just very good, very gentle exercise for sure. And deep down, it is based on a form of martial art that's designed for combat, but it is not for me. I can't do the thing in it that I would want to do.
I feel this probably answers the next one then as well. Could you do martial arts judging?
I could, but I would just be. I would be. It's like being on a diet and taking someone to an all-you-can-eat restaurant and then sitting there and not eating.
It'd be like you'd be nitpicking and angry at everything.
And then your cat would be there.
Yeah, I mean I did used to do judging as part of the competing. As one of the black belts, you'd turn up and you'd have your shirt, your pair of trousers, and a smart pair of shoes with you always. So you turn up at a tournament, and they'd be like, "Right, so who's judging then?" And they'd point at you, be like, "Oh, okay." Right, so you go and get changed, and then you do all of the judging and stuff, and tell people off for hitting each other too hard. That's a thing. You know, you need to tell kids off for being scrappy and grabbing a hole, and you do all of that, and then you go and you do your own bit after. And not being able to do the own bit after would be just crushing. It's that kind of soul destroying wish that I could do it thing, but I can't.
Have you picked up any new hobbies in the meantime, or anything that you've grown like more of an affinity for?
Yeah, I've got really into building Gundam models. Actually, Gunpla is the correct term. But yeah, it's like these kits, these robot kits based on the cartoon series from Japan, and I have a collection now, which kind of happened during the first COVID lockdown. I was like, what can I do? I had a quick Google, find out that actually they're not as expensive as I thought they were, and ordered some, and then started doing it and really enjoyed it. And every single one of them slightly different, and it gives you that sense of achievement when you finished it as well. So it's a good little chill out thing. Because I used to do painting. I used to play Warhammer, and I used to paint models. I broke my hand unfortunately when I was a teenager, and it left me unable to paint properly. So to be able to do something where it's creative, building these kits, and then you apply all the stickers and stuff, and you do panel lining on them with a marker, that's great for me. Really enjoy it. Very, very chilled and very, very nice to do.
Right. I do apologize if this is too insensitive. Is there a milestone date that you feel that you had to reach no matter what?
No. I would consider each day to be as equally as important as the next. You know, I did have, like, when it first happened, when I was first diagnosed, it was make it to Christmas. And I was going through chemotherapy like over the holiday period, and I made it to Christmas. It was like, yes. And I was like, right, now time for the next one. And so I did those little goals and little things, but now I've stopped looking at it that way. I don't think about it as having a particular date, because you don't, in everyday life, you don't, even if you're well and you're 100% healthy, you don't have like a, well, I want to live till I'm 121 years old and 13 days. Like you don't pick certain dates, or you're, no, I want to live until I've been married for 20 years, and then after that, doesn't matter if I die. You don't think about, you just don't think that way. And I I didn't think about stuff like that before, and I certainly don't now.
So it was a helpful tool for a time, and now it's become just a bit more routine.
Yeah, and this comes down to the terminal versus incurable thing. Terminal feels like every moment is like you've got to set those marks, but then incurable, it feels a little bit more wishy-washy, where you don't have to set them and you can just try and carry on living. That's the idea.
The life expectancy for anaplastic cancer is 4 to 6 months. How does it feel to outlive the estimate by over 2 years, and what do the doctors think now?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, I was misdiagnosed, so that's what they think now. Is that it's a different type of cancer. I don't have any of the genetic markers that are common with anaplastic. That's kind of one of those things that reinforces the fact that I don't have it. Is that I don't show any of the mutations that are common and targetable, combined with the having another look at the pathology and being like, actually, the cells aren't anaplastic yet. That's looking back at it and looking at the progression of the disease being so slow. That's kind of, yeah, that's where we are. That's what we think.
And our last question, unless someone's going to submit anything else, anything new related to the British Thyroid Foundation lately?
Not much to talk about there. Anyone that doesn't know, is that I raised quite a lot of money for them. Charity, did the 24-hour live streams, Streaming Elite Dangerous. Did 3 of them, raised over 20,000, and managed to raise enough money for them to be able to take that, because it was above their usual funding. They took all of that money and they put it towards doing this this award that was named after me and was given to a research university who have been working on attempting to make my type of thyroid cancer respond to curative treatment rather than palliative, which is like, it's a pretty awesome thing. But that's all there really is there with the news around the British Thyroid Foundation. I'd love to do some charity work again at some point. Definitely couldn't do a 24-hour stream, that's for sure. At risk of blood clots, should not spend 24 hours in a seat, for certain. And you shouldn't spend 24 hours in a seat, even if you're not at risk. Everybody out there,
yes,
very important.
Please, louder for those in the back.
Unless you want to give yourself injections every day. But yeah, it's I would love to do it, but I think I'd have to. That comes down to the picking your energy. What you use your energy on, and it being very difficult for me to plan because I don't know how I feel from day to day. And if you want to do something successful for charity, a lot of planning goes into it, as you both know. If you've got to get everyone in the right place, right time slots, and you need to be on your game. And from day to day, I have no clue. I have no clue what I'll be feeling. Like today, I'm surprised I'm feeling so good because I felt good yesterday. Tomorrow, I probably won't. I don't know. I might do. Probably not.
I both love and hate those days where it's like, I feel good. What's wrong? When's it going to stop?
Yeah, it's for me. It's I can only assume that once I've had dinner, this is going to take a dramatic turn.
It's time to redecorate the bathroom after dinner. Excellent.
It's refreshing that we're talking about the other kind of toilet habits than we usually do. It's
You say it's refreshing.
Somehow I've ended up on the bathroom side of TikTok and they keep showing me like bathroom redecoration videos and I've got no idea why. I don't know how I've gotten there.
Apparently they think you spend a lot of time in the bathroom.
Well, I mean, unless they've got a location on for my bathroom, then I... Very
specific set of locations. It's
very specific.
minutes. Because at this moment, we realised the tracking on the app was too good.
Yeah, it's just like, honestly, Jesus Christ. It's like, oh, these are your hallway videos now. What?
Oh dear. Right. Well, that was our last question. So here's an opportunity to say any last things that you wish to divulge, or any last words of wisdom or things that you'd like to leave us with.
If you find a lump or a bump, get it checked. If it doesn't belong there, then you need to know what it is. This is, and I'm going to say this again. Check your lumps and your bumps. If it doesn't belong there, make sure you find out what it is. And also, this is very important in this day and age, especially in the UK, doctors dodge you. Do not let them get away with it. Push to be seen, get seen. And if you have any concerns, speak to the right people. It is important. Very important. There's been far too many stories recently of people who have left it too late or been put off by doctors, and they have found themselves in a much worse situation than they should have been. In the UK, we're entitled to medical treatment, and you're entitled to as much time as the next person. Don't let the receptionist be mafia and stop you. Very important. Don't just give up with taking some paracetamol, hoping for the best. Lumps and bumps, take them seriously. That's it.
I think Pan is talking.
That's a good point.
But we can't hear. It looked really dynamic and interesting, but I'm just not entirely sure what it was.
I think I muted it because I was slapping a fool on the internet, and then there we are. Remember, if you do get any letters from the doctors, read the back of them. There's usually a tiny little section at the bottom that says you are allowed to get treatment, and you are able to demand treatment within X amount of weeks or months, which is very important because then you can keep track of it and tell them they need to see you. And yes, receptionists, don't let them put you off. They very much act like bulldogs for GPs sometimes. So if you have to, look up the words you need to say to get the bulldogs out of the way and then speak to the doctor.
And I don't know, apparently today I'm feeling like nice towards medical professionals. I don't know why. I think I'm off my meds. But they are trying to help people, but they just don't have the funding or the time or the staff to do so. But that doesn't mean that you're any less deserving. And you should always push, but try to be respectful. Okay. Well, thank you both for being here. Thank you, Pan, for co-hosting as per always, and Plater, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I hope this was pleasant.
It's always fun. So thank you for having me.
I never really know what to say. It's like I enjoyed talking to you, but at the same time,
it's a shame you have to, isn't it?
We're talking about delicate things. We're obviously we've signed up here to talk about the things that other people don't want to talk about or are very often avoided. But yes, can I get a shout out for our guest and for our co-host, please? Next Through Our Eyes podcast will be next Thursday, because obviously this one was delayed, but back to usual schedule. Next stream for me will be on Sunday. Please go give our guest and Pan some love, and I hope you all have a good rest of your evening or day. I hope you all have a good rest of your week. Yes, thank you all for hanging out, and have a good one. Say bye all.
Bye.
Bye.